Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How y'all doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am doing another video, my top 3 series, as I said in the last one, that I did base products with foundations, concealers, powders. There are 5 videos in the series. Today we will be doing face categories. All things bronzer, blush, highlight, all the fun things in life, because hashtag blush is life. And I hope that you're here for it. And if you are, please keep on watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna, lover of all things high and colorful beauty and self-care. Ultimately, this channel, what we do here, this is my self-care. This is how I curb the anxiety going on in my brain. This is how I hush it. This is what I do to soothe my soul. And if this is also something that you find that you are interested in doing, talking about makeup, because that's what we do here, just all the talk about makeup, please keep on watching. Please subscribe before you go. I would love to have you as a part of my YouTube fam here. I would love to welcome you in. And I would love to have conversations with you down in the comment section about makeup, because you people are my people. And with all that said and done, let's go ahead and roll into this video where we are talking about the top 3 in all of my face categories, which are blush, bronzer, and highlight. Okay, so as I said before, in the first video that went up in this series, or mini series, if you will, I do these every year just to keep myself in check on what I find to be, you know, what I'm enjoying right now. I'd like to look back on them and see what I was enjoying at the time, but also thoughts change, right? Feelings change about things that you're bringing into your life. Whether you love them today, you might not love them tomorrow. Your skin changes, your texture changes, things change. So I like to update these every single year, so that's what we're doing. These all went up last year about this same time, and we started with base categories, which you guys have already seen, which are all things foundation, concealer, complexion type items, and I will link that in the cards for those of you who haven't seen it, but it just went up. And we will be ending the first week of June with all things palettes. So top 3 in every category for palettes. That does look a little bit different because the subcategories are like neutral and colorful and giant and those kind of things. But for these, we just have basically 4 sections in today's video: blush, bronzer, highlight, face palettes. But I did grab my favorite powders and my favorite cream products from all the categories except for face palettes, because I do think that I use them differently, but I also think that they are just different, right? So I didn't want to cheat, but I also didn't want to leave things out that I think are phenomenal from both avenues. And cream products are such a big part of the makeup space right now, and a big part of honestly how I do my makeup. Like, I will most of the time use a cream and a powder of each one of the products that I put on my face. So I couldn't leave one out. So let's start with blush. I'm going to start with blush powder because that's just how we're going to go. Powder, cream, powder, cream. Okay, so first and foremost, this came to me pretty, I guess, middle last year, maybe even almost late last year, but this is the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Blush, and I only have one, and I'm very, very sad that I only have one, but because I tried it so late last year, and because I just wasn't sure about it until like around November, December time, because I hadn't tried it yet, and then in January I went on a no-buy, I haven't purchased more, but I do want to purchase more because this is a beautiful blush. So this is the Armani Luminous Silk Blush. It is a beautiful blush, and I have used it 100, maybe not 100 times, but so many times. I would say close to 60 times, but you cannot tell. You cannot see that in this pan. It's so firmly pressed, but it just goes on so beautifully. It kind of has this, like, I mean, it's luminous silk, right? It's super soft to the touch. It also looks very luminous on the face. It's not like this color is that right there. So you can build it up to be everything that you want it to be if you want it to be this berry, but you also can just leave it really subtle. But the more you put on it, the more luminous it looks and not cakey. And I think that that is a plus as it pertains to powder products, because sometimes the more powder you put on, the more it just kind of sits on top of your skin. I don't think that that can be said about this product. It just looks more beautiful the more you apply it, which I think is very strange. It's also a blush that lasts all day for me, and it's such a beautiful color. This one is in the shade 61 Desire, which I believe is raspberry. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me. I will have it linked down in the description box for you, but it is just such a beautiful blush. It's just such a beautiful blush, and I do want more. And even running my fingers in that, you guys can't even tell. Like I just, it's like magical. It's like going to be the never-ending blush. This will be a blush that I will not pan because I firmly believe it's a never-ending blush. As I said, I've used it so many times and it doesn't even look like I've used it. The next blush formula that I have is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Divine blushes. And the one specifically that I love, the one that I used so much that I thought I was going to hit pan on it, but then realized that you can't possibly hit pan on these blushes, is the one in Flirtatious. And you guys can see, I would venture to say I have used this blush 100 times. You can see it's very well loved, but at the same time, you can still full on see the imprint in this blush. Now, I've had this in my collection for, I would guess, about a year, maybe a little over a year now. And again, I have used it at least 100 times, at least, because it's just such a beautiful, like, no-brainer blush. You don't have to like think about what you're doing with this blush because it's almost not visible on the skin. It is right here. And like I said, it's almost not visible, but on my face, it's just so pretty and such a light, like almost baby pink, but also kind of like, it just gives my cheeks a real natural flush, but it's also got kind of that luminosity to it. And it's also a blush that I feel like even if you continue to layer it, it just doesn't look bad. It just continues to look beautiful on the skin, and maybe even more beautiful as you continue to layer it. This is 2 layers. This is also 2 layers of the Divine Blush by Armani, but this is 2 layers of Flirtatious. And this is 3 layers. So you can see it quite a bit more there. It's just kind of got this really beautiful kind of peachy pink, but natural peachy pink flavor to it. So it's what I wear when I am having a no makeup day because it's such a beautiful natural blush. The imprint on this, you can see, is kind of dwindling away. And I think that you can see that the most because I do have a brand new one as well. So you can see that the imprint is dwindling away, but it's still so active in the pan. It's crazy sauce to me. I had a friend, Melissa, who had this in her project pan. I think it was her project pan. And she kept like, I just don't understand. And I told her, I said, that blush will never pan. You will never pan it. Like, I've used mine so many times. And there's the only indication that it's been used is like the powder around the pan and the fact that the imprint is slightly more flat than the imprint on a brand new one. But I've used it so many times. The last powder blush product that I have to share is this one, because I really can't say that this isn't a favorite when I have 8 of them in my collection. I think 8. There might be 2 more. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I have so many of these blushes. Probably my favorite one is this one that is Butterfly. And it's mostly because it is just this really beautiful orange color on a blush. It is on my face today. You can see it looks really beautiful. Granted, it is tapped on top of a more like cool tone pink cream blush, but it is just stunning. It is just such a beautiful blush. This one happens to be my favorite, but all of them are really, really nice, if I'm honest. And this one, again, is a powder, but it has a slight bit of luminosity to it. It's just such a weird color, right? It's such a unique color, and it really does transform beautifully on the face. It's not like it's clown hair orange on your face. It's just so pretty. Has a little bit of luminosity. The only thing that I would say that is different about these blushes than the other two that I mentioned is these ones, if you do go that extra mile and try and pack it on, then you are going to see that powder just kind of laying on top of your skin. But these ones are so pigmented that you truly, this is one go of this butterfly blush on my cheek. Like there's only one layer, so you don't need much. I really like this Terra one. It's a really pretty kind of like almost terracotta red color. Really beautiful. This formula also has some that are more matte and some that are more luminous, but even the more matte ones do have a slight bit of luminosity to them, so they just make your cheeks look really healthy. Another one of my favorites is Willa. This is just such a beautiful, like just plain, like almost baby pink without that cool tone effect to it. Yeah, they're just really pretty. I also really like Starla for, and I think that you guys can see that because the imprint in these ones that I am showing you is slightly disappearing more than what you would anticipate for a blush that you don't use all the time. But this one's a really good shade for a true bronzer. I couldn't do a top 3 blushes without mentioning these because I do have so many of them because they really truly are just really beautiful. For cream blushes, first and foremost, this is one that I've been in love with for a very long time. This is the MAC Glow Play. This is one that I think that I brought in last year as well. This is kind of like a putty blush, and I do have this one which is in Heat Index, and I also have this one which is more of a neutral tone in Blush Please. And what I would say about these is they are more putty than they are cream, right? But they just truly last forever on the skin. I could wear this cream blush without another blush over the top of it and not worry about its staying power. I put this on as a swatch in Ulta when they were on the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty a couple years ago, and walked around the store, got into things, went home, did some things, went back to the store. They were still on my arms. So I did end up purchasing both of those during that 21 Days of Beauty because those were the only 2 that were left in the store, which was a bummer because there was another one that I was really interested in getting, and it's one that unfortunately discontinued the very same year. So I didn't end up getting it at all, but I'm really happy to have those 2, and I'm always on the lookout of another one that I can pull into my collection and love just as much as I love those 2. They're really, really good blushes. They last forever. They're beautiful and creamy, so they go onto the skin. They don't sit on top of the skin, right? They blend into the skin and they just look really, really one with the skin without causing any kind of like exacerbation of texture or anything like that. They are really, really good. Secondarily to that, I do have the Rare Beauty liquid blushes. I think these are a favorite for a lot of people. I only have 2. The first time I tried them, I hated these blushes, but you really have to fine-tune your usage of these blushes in order to make them work for you. I do have the shade Hope and I believe Encourage. Yes, Hope and Encourage. So one is more of like a peachy tone, like a peachy pink, and the other one is more of a like a mauve. And I love both of them. I'm really happy to have both of them, but I would say for the Rare Beauty liquid products, if it comes in a mini, get it in a mini because this will last you forever. So those are the 2 shades that I have. And I think that the only problem that I have ever had with these is that you do kind of have to work fast, because if you don't work fast, they're going to look crazy on your skin. Like you're going to be able to see where you put it. It's not like put it on this cheek and then put it on this cheek and then work it into this cheek, because by the time you get back to this cheek, it's already dry and you're not going to be able to blend it out super well. But you also like truly a little dabble do you. That is the other reason why I like the minis better than the full size, because the mini has just truly a really mini type doe foot, whereas it's the same shape and all, but the full size, the doe foot is giant, so it's harder to get the small amount that you need for these products with the large size. But really you don't need more than a mini. This one is gonna last through my grandkids to be honest. And the last formulation of cream blushes that I have is really the Nude Sticks blushes. I love Nude Sticks blushes, and I was super excited when they came out with stacks, because these ones can kind of be a little bit cumbersome, and to be frank, I hate the little brush that's on the bottom of them. I wish they were like smaller, maybe charge us less, or like dual-ended. That would be cool. And I do think that they have some dual-ended products, but their cream blushes in this stick form are really, really good too. This one is Sweet Cheeks. I put 2 of these into my declutter because I was like, I don't need these. And then I went in and I dug them back out because I missed them. I love these cream blushes. They're really, really nice. Kind of go on with a little bit more of a balmy texture, but your hair isn't going to stick to them after they are completely like buffed in. They're just truly beautiful. You can sheer them out. You can make them impactful. You can do whatever you want to with them. Truly, they're going to be amazing, and you can use them all over your face as well. So you could use them on your lips. Even, I mean, if you wanted a monochromatic look. And I do have that one. I have this one in the shade Picante, and I have this one in the shade Juicy Melon. Now, Juicy Melon is one that I have used more than any of the other ones, but I really, truly love that shade of pink. And then I also have 2 of their stacks, which are pretty recent to their line, but this one is in Cheeky Coral, and this one is in Love and Roses. And obviously you can see I love this one so dang much. I will probably pan one of these in no time flat because they're just so good. I have used this one so many times. I think that you guys can see the dent in there, and it's not that they are super like emollient to, not like so putty like the MAC Glow Play blushes that you could stick your finger all the way through. That's not really what they are, but I have used this one so much that there is quite a bit of a dent in there. I think, honestly, I can already see the waffle pan from this guy. So really, really good blushes. They stay on your cheeks all day long, which sometimes isn't necessarily the case with a cream, as I said, with the Glow Play blushes, unless you are topping it with a powder product. But all 3 of these, like cream or liquid blushes, I can use on their own without topping them with a powder, and can be secure in the fact that I know that they are going to last all day. Next is bronzer, and I have my bronzer and my contour in the same category. I used to have bronzer and contour in different categories in my spreadsheets. I also used to have cream in a separate category than all of my blushes and my bronzers and my highlights, but I mixed them all together because it just made more sense. And I use bronzer and contour kind of in the same way. I don't often contour and then also bronze in a different shade. Like, I'm gonna contour and then make that my all over the face shade, unless it is like a straight up like gray tone contour. And when I think of those that are in my collection that I do that with, it might be like the Fenty Matchstick in Amber. That one is a straight up contour in my collection. I don't use it for anything else. I think that's it. So for powder, I have a new one to me. This is new as of like late last year. This is the Lancome Skin Transforming Bronzer. This is a beautiful bronzer, and while it doesn't look like it is maybe the right shade for me, it looks a little light, right? It is actually a really perfect shade, and I really loved it. So that is what it looks like. It's just such a beautiful shade of bronzer for my skin. I love that it's kind of got this like almost peachiness to it without being orange. So it perfectly blends into the rest of my skin and looks very, very natural on my face. And I also love the packaging. It's really just very pretty. I do have mine in the shade O2 Light. It is a beautiful bronzer. It's got a nice like little bit of luminosity to it without being sparkly, right? It's just like healthy glow luminosity. It's just so pretty. The next one is the Hourglass Ambient Nude Bronze Light. And I kind of went back and forth with this one because I wasn't really 100% sold on this for the longest time. And I also really love the Benefit Hoola bronzer. So, I mean, I've had multiple of those in my collection. I've bought it so many times. I even bought the jumbo of it in the most recent time. I've given it as gifts and giveaways and almost every giveaways. I really love that bronzer. So I went back and forth with that one, but I've brought the Hoola bronzer into this so many times that I thought, let's pick another one. Let's pick one that we know that we have reached for so many times this year. And that would have to be this one, the Hourglass Ambient Nude Light Bronze. Again, that is the shade and that is what it looks like on the skin. Now this is a couple of layers of that. And I do think that it could tend to look maybe a little bit more orange than I like it to look if I do try and build it up too much on my face. So I could go really ham with this and not love it on my face. But if I don't try to be the bronzest person on the planet with this bronzer specifically, it is just so beautiful on the skin. It doesn't lay on top of the skin, doesn't exacerbate any kind of texture or anything like that, doesn't sit in my fine lines or wrinkles, goes beautifully all over my face. I can deepen it up to make it, you know, kind of shadowy or contoury, and it doesn't look cakey. It can, though, look orange. I would never put this many layers on my face because of just how orange this is looking. But it is truly, if you just go in with a light, you know, with a big fluffy brush and just trust that that is enough for you. This is a truly beautiful, more neutral tone bronzer for my skin tone. And then the last one, which is my favorite, and I think you guys have heard me talk about this before. This is my all-time favorite. This is the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Divine Bronzer in Nude Honey. And I mean, the imprint on that is nearly completely gone. So, you know, I've used this so much. When I first got this, I could not put it down. I had to force myself to put it down. I do think that you can still slightly see the like crown that's in here, but for the most part, this is my most used bronzer. I've used that easily 100 times. It's just such a beautiful neutral tone, all over the face, doesn't get cakey, doesn't look powdery, and I don't ever want to be without this in my collection. I would venture to say that if she discontinued this bronzer and I needed a new one, I would be very, very sad, because this is a bronzer that I just think is beautiful. It's beautiful on my skin. She has multiple different shades, but that one specifically is the one that I want always in my collection because it's just such a beautiful shade. For cream, I do have one that I think I've mentioned before. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer. And this is one that, again, I've used so many times, but it doesn't look like I have used it hardly at all. It's a beautiful, beautiful bronzer, both in package and in application and in blend. It blends out really nicely. It is getting old in my collection, so I just kind of have to cater to it a little bit more, maybe warm it up a little bit longer than I used to in the past, but it does look very orange here, but again, this is just a finger swatch. If I go in really ham, it can make my skin look orange. It is a bronzer that I tend to use a little more in the summer times. Sun-kissed skin is a little bit more forgiving than my pale skin, but it doesn't look this orange on my face because I'm buffing it out, blending it out over a larger area. So it is such a beautiful bronzer, and I really find that it is easy to use. There's no fickleness to it. There's no catering that you have to do to it, like NARS, right? You can buff NARS. You can put so much NARS on your brush and then buff it into your skin. It's like magic. It just looks good every single time. I feel the same way about this one. A couple of new ones to me this year are stick ones, and one is this Too Faced one. This is the Too Faced Melting, Bronzing, and Sculpting Stick. I think when this came out on the market, we were all just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, Too Faced. But when I first used this, I then could not put it down. I think that you guys can see the amount of use that's come out of this stick. I love that it smells a little bit like chocolate. I don't love chocolate, but I do love when my products smell yummy. This smells like chocolate. It goes on really, really easily. I've used it with, you know, stippling it on a brush. I've used it straight on my skin. It is just my makeup product, so I don't need to worry about, you know, germs or who else is going to be using the product. I love the sleekness of the stick, and it is really dark. Again, this is just me putting it on my skin, but it buffs out so beautifully and looks just seamless on the skin. This one is a little bit more, like, I would say red tone than this. And on camera, it's coming across really, really orange, but this is actually, in my opinion, more of a like neutral tone of brown, especially after it is buffed out. It's not quite as orange as like maybe the Charlotte Tilbury one is. And I know that orange is a horrible way to describe a bronzer. It's not like really orange, it's warm. It's not quite as warm as the Charlotte Tilbury one. I think that it could cater to more of like a contour color also, more than the Charlotte Tilbury one could, just because it is less warm than Charlotte Tilbury. But I love it all over my face, and I really don't feel like you can mess up with it. And that is a plus for me, because sometimes I feel like I go ham with the bronzer just a little too hard. The last one that I have is the Rare Beauty bronzer stick, and mine is in the shade Bright Side. And I did buy this one as more of a contour because it is, you know, a little bit more neutral, a little bit more gray leaning for like contour-esque. But I did find and you guys can see that I think in the swatch, but I did find myself using this as an all over the face bronze as well. The weird thing about this one is that, not weird, I guess, but the great thing about this one is it feels just so silky to the touch. It feels silky going onto the skin. It just kind of blends into the skin without it looking like you've actually put product on your face. It is such a natural shade of like shadow for me. And again, I have the shade Bright Side, that it just works so well as a truly beautiful, truly natural contour shade that I could like take up into like my, you know, hairline, and it would look seamless. It would look natural. This is the bronzing stick that I pull for, again, on my no makeup days. So it is something that I had to mention in here, because I do think that these two things, like this bronzer stick and this Nude Honey bronzer by Pat McGrath, really partner super well together for like a natural no makeup look. I mean, this bronzer with this bronzing stick, yes, it looks perfect and seamless. And it's just really weird to me because a lot of times bronzers in stick form or in cream form have a little bit of a more of a like slippy feel to them, or almost powdery, right? If they're a cream to powder feel to them. I would say the Charlotte Tilbury feels a little more powdery than the other two, and the Too Faced one feels a little bit more balmy than the other two. The Rare Beauty one feels like silk. For highlights, I had zero problems coming up with my favorite powders, because these were all rather new to me this last year. I think that they came out this last year. And the first one I have is the Natasha Denona HyGen, what is a skincare blah 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 beautifier. This is the one I have. So I have mine in the shade 01 Light. And you know, I was really kind of, I mean, it is kind of, I would say quasi creamy. It could go either way, but I do have it in my powder category in my inventory because it's more powdery than it is creamy, but you can definitely move it around. It's a lot like, I would say, the Glow Play blushes in that it's more of a putty, but it's not quite as like malleable, right? It's not quite as movable. This is really just such a beautiful highlight on the skin. It's very See Me from the Moon if you want it to be that way, but it can also be buffed in to just be natural Lit from Within. I mean, it's just pretty, right? I just don't understand why you would want to do highlighter in any other way. It is just such a beautiful highlight. And I think that the same can be said of all the powder highlights that I'm talking about today, because highlight has come a very long way from, 2017 when I started this channel. They used to be very, even if they were, subtle, they still used to be very powdery. I think that they still would exacerbate a lot of texture on the skin. Not that I've really had a texture problem, because I don't really have a texture problem, but I do have aging skin, right? And sometimes us with aging skin, we don't like to wear highlighters because you can see like those fine lines and wrinkles. I don't feel like this formula of highlighter does that, yet it is still so impactful, so see me from the moon. It is just really, truly beautiful, and you can make it a little more subtle, and it is what is on my face today. So it's truly beautiful. The next one that I have is one that came out right about the same time, and this is the ABH Glow Seeker highlighter, and it's in Sun Idol. So it's a little bit more gold. This packaging is a lot more stout, feels a lot more heavy and a lot more luxe, and it feels a lot more powdery in the pan, which is what is expected. It is a powder highlight. The one thing that I could say though that is similar is that it on the skin appears the exact same way as the more putty formula of the Natasha Denona. I just think it's stunning. I just think that, again, I don't want to wear a highlighter any other way. It reminds me of their Amrezy formula highlighter a lot. But I do think that this is just a slight bit more refined than the Amrezy highlighter. It doesn't lay on top of the skin. It doesn't sink into fine lines and wrinkles. It just kind of looks like your skin is lit from within with like a gold bar. It is so pretty, and I can't get over the highlights that came out last year. And to round that out, I have these ones, which are the Fenty Demi Glows. I did pick up two. They are kind of fragile. I have Pretty Pearls, so I try to be very careful with them. I do have Pretty Pearls, which is kind of more of a like champagne-y color. Looks like that. And I have Too Much, and Too Much is my favorite, and it is kind of pinky. And the thing is I always am going to be drawn towards a pinky highlight. That's just who I am. So I'm going to share the Too Much with you here on my hand. That is it right there. I think that it does have a slight like undertone right there, like base pigment that could lean slightly too dark for me, but I love it so much. And it's one of those, again, that I feel like looks really good on the skin, looks like it's lit from within, doesn't really sink into fine lines and texture. I have a lot of fine lines on my hand. I have a lot of texture on my hand because I have really dry skin and my hands aren't taken care of nearly as well as my face is. And it just doesn't grab on to any of the texture at all for a powder product. That's pretty phenomenal, right? This is the other one right here. That is the Pretty Pearls, and it also is very, very pretty, and it is probably the one I should like more because the base pigment of it isn't too dark for me, whereas I think that the Too Much could be. But I just think that they're all just really, truly beautiful powders that act like creams that live on your skin, within your skin. Does that make any sense? Like, I feel like I'm trying to make up things right now, but you really can't not tell that. I mean, like, I have that Natasha one on, like I said, and it just looks like my skin is healthy, like glowy, right? I really love those powder highlights. And for the cream products, I had a little bit more problems with because I honestly don't love a cream or liquid highlight. I really just don't. So the ones that I'm bringing you are ones that I do love. I do find myself pulling for, and I would recommend if somebody wanted a cream or liquid highlight. So the first one is going to be a Colourpop Super Shock Cheek. The Colourpop Super Shocks are really, really good. I have 4 in my collection, but these 2 are my favorite. I have Spoon and Flexitarian. Flexitarian is iconic, right? The thing with these is you have to be very, very careful because, I mean, this is Flexitarian. I love using Flexitarian on my inner corner. It is crazy. It could be absolutely nutso. You could look like you're trying to be a Martian. These are just really good. These are so old in my collection too. And a lot of people are like, yeah, but if you know, your Colourpop Super Shocks go bad really super fast. So this one is Spoon. And that's just not been my experience. Spoon is a little bit more subtle. It's like the more like subtle, almost champagne-y, almost pinky tone of Flexitarian. Just love them both so much. And again, I'm always going to go for a pink highlight. I do think that both of them could be awful if you try to, I don't know, go too hard with them, but they are truly beautiful. And they're more of like a putty formula. I would say they remind me of, or the Natasha Denona Skin Beautifier reminds me of the Super Shock formula a lot. Only I think the Super Shock formula is maybe a little bit more movable. This one is such an old product in my collection. This is the Stila Heaven's Hue highlighter, and mine is in the shade Luminescence. And it's a putty highlighter that is so pretty, so gorgeous, and so impactful. I like this one specifically because I feel like it's a beautiful pink highlight that could kind of be like a blush topper, be like that unexpected pink highlight on your face. I have worn it on my eyes before. I have worn it as an inner corner before. It's just such a pretty creamy highlight. And honestly, like I said, it's really old in my collection, but it's lasted forever. It doesn't smell funny. It still is super creamy to the touch, and it still reacts to the skin like it did when I first got it in my collection. Like there's no, again, exacerbation of texture. It's really long wearing, honestly, and that's a plus because that's part of the reason why I don't really 100% love liquid or cream highlights, is because I don't find them to be nearly as long wearing as the powdered ones. I do find that I need to top them almost every single time, but these ones that I'm talking about, again, I don't have to top. They're just pretty, impactful, and they don't really sink into the skin and cause any kind of exacerbation of texture. The last one I have is the Charlotte Tilbury Blush Light Wand in the shade Spotlight, and this one is a new one. I did have one in Project Pan that I just finished, and so I hadn't really opened this one yet. But this is what it looks like right here. And it is just this really beautiful, I think most natural version of a liquid highlight that I have in my collection. And it's really super simple to use. Again, you just dot it on and then blend it out. And you can blend it out with your finger. You can blend it out with a sponge. You can blend it out with anything, and I feel like it is foolproof. So really beautiful, really natural highlights. My no makeup highlights. Last category is face palettes, and for face palettes I don't have creams and powders. I just have 3 face palettes. So the first one is going to be this one. This one is my Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit palette, and I got it the year they did all the animals and jungle animals, right? Were they all jungle animals? I think so. I got the elephant anyways. Now, I picked this palette because these powders are truly beautiful. I love the ambient lighting powders. They really, truly are your skin, but better kind of powders. They are not visible on the skin. I really love this blush. I really love this bronzer, and I really love this like setting shade or highlight, if you will, because I do use it as more of a highlighty powder, even though I think it's their finishing powder. Yeah, it's their finishing powder. I wanted to have face palettes in here that had all the things, blush, bronzer, and highlight in here, because that just made the most sense for me. But I truly love all of the shades in this palette so much. So the biggest reason that I pulled this in was because I love all the shades in this palette and pull for this when I go out of town all the time, because I know I have something from every category that I'm going to need, and it's all in one. I also secondarily to that know that, or maybe first and foremost reason would be also that like these powders are nearly invisible on the skin. So really love Hourglass powders, really think that they're beautiful. The next one I have is the Cali Contour Kit, and this one I had on my list to purchase for such a long time and never did, because it was 40 bucks and I was like, I'm really probably not going to use all those powders in there. But at the end of the day, when I do have this in rotation, when I am using this, when I think about going out of town, if it isn't the Hourglass palette, this is the palette that I want to pull. Again, it has all the powders that I need to complete a look. It has a contour powder, it has a bronzing powder, it has a blush, 2 highlights, and a face powder. And while I don't love this face powder for like underneath my eyes, I do like this face powder for an all over the face kind of powder moment, especially if it's super hot outside, because it doesn't get cakey. It doesn't get cakey on my skin. I love the contour in this palette so dang much. I'm not a huge fan of the bronzer, but I will use the bronzer. It does lean a little bit more warm than I like to have, but this blush is a beautiful blush. This highlight, beautiful highlight. This one's a little bit dark for me, but I have worn it as eyeshadow before and I love it in that way. I've also worn it as like a peach tone blush topper, and it's really beautiful in that way as well. It's just really pretty. And if I mix it with this blush, it's gorgeous. So I really like this, and I'm not sorry that I spent the money to purchase it, even though it took me forever to decide that I was actually going to do it. And then probably my most used face palette is going to be the Natasha Denona My Dream Cheek Trio. This is a blush and highlight palette. So it doesn't have a bronzer, but I'm not always 100% of the time wearing a bronzer, if I'm honest with you. And this highlight is such a beautiful highlight, and this blush is probably one of my favorite blushes in my collection, hands down. It has a nice healthy dent in there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've worn it so much, and I think that you can see that the imprint on this like balmy highlight is also really down there, but I think it's because it's a beautiful balm that you can put on and put like any kind of powder over the top of, and it's just going to create like a healthy like hold, but also like a healthy feel to whatever powder that you're putting on top of it. So I really do like this palette so much. Now this Dream Glow is this highlight here is supposed to be a powder, but it feels a lot like the Skin Beautifier that I showed you in the single highlight favorites. And to be honest, it goes on the skin a lot like that Skin Beautifier. It just doesn't, I don't know. I don't think it's the same formula, because it doesn't like, it's not like it doesn't form to however you're touching it, right? Like the Skin Beautifier does, like a putty product would. But it is really silky to the touch. Goes on your skin really silky. Looks almost like one with the skin. It's just pretty. So those would be my 3 favorite face palettes. And with that is the last one that I have to show you. So really quick jaunt. Well, not quick. It wasn't quick, right? Because I like to talk too much about makeup. But quick jaunt through my face categories, which are blush, bronzer, highlight, and face palettes. It's all the things that are fun that you put on your face because, you know, complexion maybe isn't all that fun, but it's, you know, sometimes necessary. So there's that. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I would sure like to hear what your top 3 blushes, bronzers, and highlights are in your collection. Please let a girl know. Hit me up down in the comments section. And with that said, just thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you are all well. I hope that you are all safe, healthy, and getting along as best that you can. I hope that you're all loving each other, being kind humans, and living your best life. And until next time, bye friends.